instructions of his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada then embarked on a journey to the West, and with great struggle, faith, and perseverance, the ISKCON movement was then established. Through Vedic authoritative scriptures, Srila Prabhupada imparted knowledge unto his disciples to pass on to us. And today, we are very fortunate to have in our presence one of Srila Prabhupada's most stalwart disciples, His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj. Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj hails from New Zealand. While studying at Auckland University was when he first caught sight of Srila Prabhupada as Prabhupada was walking through the campus. He took initiation from Srila Prabhupada in 1973 and has been actively situated in the movement in establishing the South African Yatra, and we owe most of our facilities in South Africa to his dedicated work and contribution. We are very fortunate to have him in person, imparting knowledge unto us, and I ask that we listen attentively and absorb the sweet nectarian message. So I now hand you over to His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, okay. A new MC is born. I didn't know you could do that. You did it, whoops, you did it very well. What happens here? Right. Well, how nice to be here with you all, and particularly Acyuta Gauranga Prabhu and his parents and sister, the family. I remember that fateful evening 10 years ago or so, when we did the program for the deities. It was really nice, and they're looking so nice. How's everything going? Chanting regularly? Anyway, thanks for having us. It's really nice. Time flies. 10 years. Sure. Seems like it was a year ago, 2 at the most. But anyway, thank you all for coming, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you all. And I think what we should do, in fact, I know what we should do. We should have a little kirtan or something. We're not time restricted, are we? No, we're not. So, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, can you lead us in some melodic, gentle, heartwarming, blissful kirtan or Jai Radha Madhava, something? Bhakta Mike.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radhavadava Jaya Kunjavihari Jaya Radhavadava Jaya Kunjavihari Jaya Gomi Jana Bhalaba Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Jana Bhalava Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajararanjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajararanjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunjavihari Jaya Kunjavihari Jaya Radhavadava Jaya Kunjavihari Jaya Radhavadava Jaya Kunjavihari Gopi Jana Bhalava Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajararanjana Jaya Shodhanandana Jaya Brajadara Jahana Jaya Mula Thirabarashani Jaya Kunja Vihani Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranga, Gauranga, Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Ita Gauranibo, Haribo, Haribo, Ita Gauranibo.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahangsa Parivrajakcharis Tadis Shistamad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki. Shri Shri Dal Nitai Gaunata Raj ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Shri Gopanima Mahotsava ki. Gopremanande. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to their Samo devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So again, devotees and friends, I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you for coming along. And it's just really great. How many times have I been to your place now? Is this, how many times? 4 times, is it? Right, okay. But 10 years ago, we installed Jagannath, right? Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. And was that all at the time? At that time? Yeah, I remember that. That was really nice. And they look so beautiful, don't they, on the top level there? And so nicely cared for. This is what we like to see. That if devotees are going to do deity worship, that they really do it from the heart and not just as a formality, a ceremony, a ritual sort of thing. Because after all, we are persons, and Krishna, God, is a person. He's not just a thing or something so big that he's just too big to be a person. He's a very big person, but he's still a person. And we all, each one of us, has a personal relationship with him. And that relationship, of course, at this point, living here in this world, we're all generally, people just get caught up in everything that's going on, maintaining themselves, maintaining their families, and dealing with the various challenges that arise, financial, social, political, and yeah, you know what it's like. It can be a bit of a struggle. It can be quite a struggle. It can be quite a struggle, and then suddenly along comes COVID to top it all off. And then along comes Russia invading Ukraine. Well, we're lucky. Anyway, you know, these things, it's amazing in this world. The challenges, the different things that are going on. But each one of us has an eternal relationship with God. Every one of us has an eternal relationship with Krishna, and it's personal. Just as we all have our relationships with different people, with our parents and our brothers, sisters, friends, people we work with or people we study with, and maybe occasionally one of us gets an enemy. You don't have any enemies, do you? Yashodharani? No, I know you don't. But some of us, have you ever had an enemy? Anyway, sometimes it happens, unfortunately. So we all have different types of relationships that surround us in our lives. But ultimately our main relationship is with Krishna, with God. And when we really develop that, or as we develop it step by step, then that relationship eclipses all the other relationships we have. Because Krishna, God, is the complete person. And as we develop our relationship with Him, then it's the complete relationship. Otherwise, our relationships, sometimes things go well, sometimes things don't go well in our relationships. You know what it's like. But Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, he would say that when you have a relationship with God, like Mother Yashoda was as if the mother of Krishna. Of course, you can't be the mother or father of God, but He accepts such types of relationships with His devotees as if they're His parents. They're not exactly as such, but they have affection for Him in that sort of mood, in that type of way. And He accepts that. He accepts that type of relationship with His devotees. So Mother Yashoda, she has a relationship with Krishna, with God, as if He is her son. And she feels like that He's my son, and I have to look after him in all the different ways that you may look after a young son. And Srila Prabhupada said that when Krishna is acting, or not exactly acting like in a drama, but He's conducting Himself as if He's your son, then, children, of course, can be challenging. Was Acyuta Gauranga Prabhu, was he challenging sometimes? Or was he always good? He was challenging sometimes. Yeah, he must have been. So Prabhupada said that in that sort of relationship with Mother Yashoda, when Krishna was good, He was good. And when Krishna was bad, He was good. If you get it. When you have a relationship with God, it's always good. Not just good, but it's always just wonderful, just amazing, just something. Our usual relationships cannot really be compared. So anyway, it's nice to see the deities being looked after in personal ways, cared for, because we understand, of course, that the deity forms of the Lord accepts those forms out of His kindness to the devotee. And when He accepts those forms, He is actually present there. They're not just representational, just to remind us that, oh yeah, God's sort of something like that. But He's personally present, and therefore we should look after the deities as persons. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. because sometimes people don't. You know, many years ago, it was actually in the 1970s, sort of maybe 75 or so. At that time, I was living in one of our temples in England and sometimes traveling around. Can you all hear okay? At the back? Can hear all right? Yeah, so we were traveling around sometimes in central England, and for a few days, maybe a week or a bit less, we were staying in a city called Coventry. It's kind of central England, more or less, or something like that. Fairly substantial place. And we were staying, there was a small group of us, I think 3 or 4 or something like that. And we were staying for those days in the Coventry Hindu temple. And they were very pleasant. They let us stay. And they were nice. And they had an altar, and they had a number of deities on the altar. And the priest, he was from India, Gujarati, and he would offer food to the deities every day. And every day, you know what he would offer? He would offer peanuts with a few raisins and some, what you call it, the sugar, solidified sugar. Sugar candy, okay. Sugar candy. He'd offer it a couple of times a day. And one time, or a couple of times, we asked for a little prasad. Some of that food which has been offered on the altar, some of that. So he gave us a little bit. A couple of days later, we asked for some more. And we noticed that the peanuts and a few raisins and the sugar candy that he gave us like 2 or 3 days later, it was the same. Actual, not just peanuts and like that, but it was the same peanuts. The actual same peanuts, the actual same raisins, and the actual same sugar candy. He was just recycling it. And how would you like to live like that? Well, you couldn't. It's not nice to treat a person like that. If we got an important person staying with us, we got to look after them. So it's nice to see. And if devotees look after the deities nicely, they'll get a lot of mercy from the Lord, because he's a person and he knows what's going on, and he appreciates when he's being treated nicely, very nicely. Yeah. And not just like he's an object, it's all a formality and just for the sake of some ritual or something, things are going on. So, yeah, 10 years now. 10 years. Acyuta Gauranga Prabhu, there he is. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. Has been worshipping the deities for 10 years. Very nicely. And I'm really happy. And that's something which we should all do if we'd like to make progress. Try and get deities, and as long as we can, look after them, and really look after them nicely. So anyway, devotees and friends, I wanted to talk about a particular subject, actually. I know some of you are well aware. It's possible some are not really aware that yesterday was a very important day in our calendar, in our Hare Krishna calendar. We call it Gaurpurnima, the appearance day, or you could say birthday, of the most recent avatar of Krishna, the most recent incarnation of Krishna, God, Lord Caitanya. Lord Caitanya appeared on the day, yesterday, 536 years ago. So it's a very important day in our calendar. And today is the anniversary of the festival which his father held the day after his appearance. We don't usually use the term birth so much. We tend to use the term appearance because God is not like us. When he appears in this world, he does so on his own terms. And not like us, we don't know how we get here, why we've taken birth in the particular family we have, and why we may have a male body or a female body, or these things we don't know. We really don't know. We're born in ignorance. But when the Supreme Lord appears, he appears on his own terms, as he wants, where he wants, when he wants, and to whom, who he wants to accept as if they're his parents. This is Krishna, this is God. And Lord Caitanya is the most recent incarnation of Krishna. And, it was 536 years ago, yesterday. So there's a lot of biographical material. There are 3 main biographies, and then there's some others too. But there are 3 main ones. And each biography is thousands of pages long. I mean, it's really, really extensive, detailed. And there's so many very nice descriptions of different things that Lord Caitanya did. Lord Caitanya appeared, his mission, his reason for coming was out of kindness to help the conditioned souls in this world who are just struggling with all the challenges. We mentioned a few some minutes ago. Yeah, struggling. And you struggle. First of all, you go to school, it can be a bit of a struggle. Then you start working, it can be a bit of a struggle. Then you get married, you get a family generally. It can also be a bit of a challenge sometimes. And you go through, and then what happens at the end? You die. And that's it. You lose everything. Every single cent you lose. Your whole family you lose. Your house, and you just lose everything at the end. That's how life works. It's not very nice, is it? That whatever you do, even if you become some big important person like Cyril Ramaphosa, or some rich person like Bill Gates, or someone like that, and you're very successful in certain ways, and people admire you, and in the end you just lose everything, every single thing. So it's not really a good arrangement for life. It's not really a very good arrangement. Of course, people accept it because they don't know anything else, and because that's just what's happening with everyone. But it's not a nice thing to accept. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains we're all eternal spiritual persons. We're all eternal. That's our nature. And therefore, because we're all eternal, the idea of dying is not very nice. We don't like it. Generally, when people are faced with the prospect of death, they get really disturbed. They get held up at gunpoint or some extremely serious disease. People become disturbed. Why? Because we are eternal, and the temporary nature of life in this world, it goes against what we really are. And so naturally, we don't just accept it as being just normal, although it is just normal to die. There's nothing special about it. It just happens to literally everyone and every living entity sooner or later. Yeah, but why? Why do people react when they're confronted by death? Why? Because it contradicts who we are, what we really are. We feel it to be unnatural. We don't want it because we're eternal. So Lord Caitanya came, the most recent incarnation of Krishna. He came in this very degraded age we're in, very difficult time we're in, to give people the opportunity to actually make solutions to the problems they're facing, and like real in-depth solutions to the main problems. Birth, death, old age, and disease are the most foundational or fundamental problems which people are facing in this world. And Lord Caitanya, Krishna as Lord Caitanya, wanted to give everyone the opportunity to get out of that and to become situated in their natural eternal position as servants of the Supreme Lord. That's the mission of Lord Caitanya. And how to do that? How to do that? The basic thing, there are a number of things, but the basic thing is to chant the names of the Lord. That's why we're called the Hare Krishna movement, even though it's not actually our name. Our name's the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, but everyone calls us the Hare Krishna movement generally, because we chant Hare Krishna a lot. But we chant Hare Krishna a lot because it is the main religious spiritual activity which will really work in this difficult age we're in. So Lord Caitanya came to teach that, to demonstrate it. He actually took the role of a devotee. He didn't really show himself to be God, although he is God. But generally he presented himself as if he was a devotee. And so there are these biographies with so much detail and different things he did. It's really amazing. And I want to start by telling you one such story. Please listen. It's It's a really nice story. I really like it. So Lord Caitanya, he was traveling around South India. For about 6 years, he traveled around South India. And in India, even nowadays, maybe not as much, but still it goes on. They have very specific seasons. And they have a very specific rainy season. And when it's the rainy season, it really rains. And when the rainy season is finished, you hardly get any rain until the next rainy season. I don't know if any of you spent time in India, but when it's when it's not the rainy season, you can make plans for going out and doing things outside, and you don't need to worry, will it rain? Because it's very rare that it rains outside the rainy season. So Lord Caitanya then, for those 6 years, when the rainy season came for a few months, like 3 months or can be a bit more, and it just really rains pretty much every day and often just all day. So he was in the role of a devotee, like a traveling mendicant. And during the rainy season, traditionally the traveling mendicants, they would stop traveling and they'd find some sacred place where they could stay, like one of the traditional temples where they could stay, and they'd just chant and study scripture and help serve in the temple like this. They would do for those months. So Lord Caitanya, 1 year, he stopped for the rainy season in a town called Sri Rangam. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with Indian geography. Tamil Nadu, South India. In Tamil Nadu, there is this town, Sri Rangam, and there is the biggest temple in India. The biggest temple is the temple of Lord Vishnu, Ranganath Temple. And it's big. I've been there quite a number of times. It's massive, actually. It's a temple town. So Lord Caitanya was staying with a family of devotees there. And they were serving in the big temple of Lord Ranganath, that family. And Lord Caitanya was there, and every day, a few times a day, he would go into the temple to have darshan of the deity. The deity there, it's Lord Vishnu, lying down. He's longer than this. He's like 8 feet long or something, lying down. Really spectacular, ancient deity, thousands of years old. So he would go every day, a few times. And when he went, every day, and this is going on for like 3 or 4 months, every single day, he saw one devotee sitting on the side, like Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, sitting on the side, and with a book, just sitting there with a book, and just looking at the book. Every time, a few times a day, every day for months. He's there just the whole day. And Lord Caitanya noticed that sometimes this devotee, sometimes he's looking at the book very intently, really concentrating. He's looking at the book. And Lord Caitanya noticed that sometimes tears were coming from his eyes, that devotee's eyes, like tears of love, tears of ecstasy, while he's just focusing on the book. But then Lord Caitanya also noticed that occasionally, from time to time, one of the other local devotees would walk by that devotee with his book and would start talking to him, to the devotee with the book, start talking with him. And these other local devotees, when they're talking with him, Lord Caitanya noticed that oftentimes they would end up laughing at him, like he's doing something stupid. And Lord Caitanya just couldn't understand. Why is he crying tears of ecstasy on one hand, and on the other hand, some other local devotees who must know him, they're coming around and they're sort of mocking him as if he's a fool and laughing at him. So one day, after seeing this happen for some time, Lord Caitanya decided to look into it and speak to him and just find out what is the story. So he did. Lord Caitanya went and said, "My dear devotee, please tell me what you're doing." And the devotee said, "Well, you know, my guru, my spiritual master, he told me that every day I must read Bhagavad Gita. So here I am, every day I have here is Bhagavad Gita, and here I am, all day, every day." And Lord Caitanya said, "Well, that's a really nice thing. You're doing a very good thing. I really appreciate it. But tell me, why is it you're doing such a nice thing, but these other local devotees, they come by from time to time and they mock you. They speak to you something, but then they laugh at you like you're a fool. Why? How could that be? They're devotees. They shouldn't do like that with another devotee." So the devotee with the book said, "You know, the thing is this, that I am illiterate. I cannot actually read. And they all know it, because they're local people. They know me. They know I'm illiterate. And so, therefore, they come by and they ask, 'Oh, Pandit Ji, what verse are you reading?' And I don't know. And I can't tell them. And they laugh at me." And Lord Caitanya said, "Well, okay, but if that's the case, if you're not actually reading it, you're just looking at the pages, tell me, why is it then that sometimes when I come past, I see you and there are tears of spiritual ecstasy coming from your eyes as you're looking at Bhagavad Gita, and I can see you're just deeply affected by it. How is it?" And the devotee said, "You know, the thing is, when I look at Bhagavad Gita, then this picture appears in my mind of Krishna driving the chariot of Arjuna. And then I think that Krishna, he's God. There's no one above him. But here he is. He's the Supreme Lord. And he is driving the chariot of his devotee. He's helping, he's serving his devotee. And just like a driver. And I think we all know, being a driver as an occupation, it's okay, but it's not a very high-level occupation, like being a manager or a director or some important position. Being a driver, it's just, some simple occupation for a simple person. So the devotee is telling Lord Caitanya that this picture appears in my mind, in my heart. Krishna, God, is just like he's a simple working person. He's driving the chariot of his devotee. And Arjuna, the devotee, whose chariot he's driving, is telling Krishna, go this way, go that way, go faster, go slower. Like this, he's instructing him. And Krishna's doing that. He's obeying the instructions of Arjuna, his devotee. And when this picture appears in my mind, it's so overwhelming. I think that Krishna is God. The devotee should be driving the chariot for Krishna, humbly serving the Lord. But the Lord is so kind to his devotees that in this case with Arjuna, he's driving the chariot of Arjuna just like he's a common person doing a common job and just doing what he's told. So the devotee said that when this picture appears in my mind and I think about it and I understand, I appreciate what's going on, then I just find it overwhelming how kind Krishna is to his devotee. And I can't help myself. I just cry. Krishna is so merciful to his devotee. So Lord Caitanya then told that devotee, he said, you may be illiterate, but you have understood Bhagavad Gita. You've understood the message of Bhagavad Gita. You may not have actually read it as such, but you have understood the message, which is that we should become devotees of the Lord. We should serve the Lord. And if we do, the Lord will be very kind. He'll be very merciful to us. He'll look after us in all sorts of ways, just like he looked after Arjuna. So Lord Caitanya said, yes, you have understood Bhagavad Gita, even though you haven't actually read it. You've just looked at the pages. You have understood it. And then Lord Caitanya said, actually, you are the authority on Bhagavad Gita. You're the authority. So yeah, this is a very interesting pastime of Lord Chaitanya's. And there's a very important message there for us too, that first of all, we should become the Lord's devotees, instead of just sort of doing whatever ordinary type of thing in very ordinary day-to-day life. We should actually become devotees of the Lord. And why? Of course, there are many reasons why, but in this case, the reason which is being shown is because The Lord is very kind to his devotees. He looks after his devotees. And if I may, if you don't mind, I could, just to illustrate the principle a little further, I could give my own example, if you don't mind, me talking about me just a little, is that, well, you heard when our fledgling but really talented, with a great future as an MC did her MCing, she mentioned that I first saw Prabhupada in 1972. You said that? Anyway, I was initiated in 73, that's true, I think in July or August or something, or maybe September. But I first saw Prabhupada, our spiritual master, in April 1972, when I was a student in Auckland University in New Zealand. So, and I moved into the temple in London on January the 7th, 1973. So in January, coming up in several months, it'll be 50 years. 50 years. So devotees, you know what happened was, I retired at the age of 21. Haribol. I mean, you can put it like that. I retired at the age of 21. I have not worked since I was 21 at all. And I've been paid nothing. But look at me. I'm still alive. Isn't that amazing? It's interesting, isn't it? So how's it happening? You know, I'm not starving to death. In fact, in Krishna consciousness, the problem is never, I don't think ever in the almost 50 years I've been practicing full-time, I don't think there's ever been a shortage at all of food to eat. Rather, the problem is there's usually too much. And it's usually too nice. And it's hard to resist. And therefore, there's the tendency to put on weight. And your cholesterol level may go up. Yeah, if you've got the problem, if you have the problem of too low a cholesterol level, we can help you out. Put it up a bit. So it's the mercy of the Lord. It really is. The Lord looks after his devotees. And as I said, don't mind me saying it and offering myself as an example, but actually it's true. It's actually a fact. So therefore we should all try to be or become devotees. And one of the main reasons is simply because Krishna, God, is so kind to his devotees in all sorts of different ways. It's truly amazing, actually. And this little story we told you, it's a nice example of that. Very nice example. It's one of my favorite stories. And there are many. There are many stories. So there's so many, actually, because, like I said, there's so much literature covering different aspects of the time Lord Caitanya was present on the planet. And there's so many lessons which can be learned. Let me tell you another one. It's different. It's quite different. This is Lord Caitanya speaking, telling a story to a group of devotees, big group of devotees. Lord Caitanya is emphasizing that in our relationship with God, because he's taking the role of a devotee of God, even though he is God. So he's teaching in our relationship with God, in many cases, people wonder, what can God do for me? And they pray to God, give me this, give me that. As they used to say, give me a house and a TV, Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. If you're familiar with that famous song. Yeah, give me a house and a car and a color TV so I can watch Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Or something, like that. So, and then if he gives me things, I sit back and I write out a shopping list. I want this and that and various things, and I send it off to God's email address or his WhatsApp number, and then I sit back and wait for him to deliver. But as one devotee said, we shouldn't really worry so much what will God do for us. Rather, we should be interested and concerned, what can I do for him? Just like that devotee in this other story we just told. He was studying Bhagavad Gita. He wasn't running around doing this and doing that. He was just studying Bhagavad Gita, or even just looking at it and just focusing his mind on it. So we should be concerned, interested, what can I do for Krishna? Rather than what can he do for me? And because if we take the other perspective, what can I do for him? How can I please him and satisfy him? Then one of our great gurus from about 400 years ago, just after the time of Lord Caitanya, 450 years ago, Jiva Goswami, he made the point that Krishna, God, is so great. He's like an unlimited ocean. It's just unlimited. So great. But still, even though he's so great like an unlimited ocean, he never forgets even the tiniest little drop of service. He never forgets. And he reciprocates. God, of course, is the perfect person. And as the perfect person, he is not ungrateful. He's not like one of these big, important people who's so big and so important and feels he's got so many important things to do that he just doesn't need to care about anybody else. Everybody else is just like too small, little people. No, Krishna, you consider that Krishna is looking after the elephants. I mean, generally they're not devotees either. They're just animals. But he's looking after them. You don't hear about undernourished elephants. Skinny elephants. Did you ever see a skinny elephant? I don't think so, because I don't think you get them. At least when they're in their natural environment. In their natural environment, the elephants, of course, they're just huge compared to us. So every day, like we have to eat so much to keep ourselves going physically, whatever it may be, I don't know, but a certain amount. Maybe it's half a kilo or a kilo, or I don't know, but something. The elephant, to keep itself going, has to eat many kilos, many times more than what we have to eat just to live. So where's it coming from? Where's it coming from? It's coming from God, actually. And therefore, generally, you don't see elephants queuing up to get a job, to earn money, so they can go to the supermarket and buy enough food. Did you ever see? No. Yeah, you don't see them lining up to get a job. You don't see them at the supermarket moving around trying to buy whatever from the supermarket. They're just out there in the forest. But you'd never see a skinny elephant. The elephants are being looked after. It's only when the humans come and destroy the forest so they can make money, then you'll find elephants or animals getting into difficulty. But otherwise, in their natural habitats, the elephants are just fine. They're being looked after by God, actually. So, if the elephant is being looked after by God, why will he not look after his devotee? Someone who's trying to serve him and please him. Of course he'll look after his devotee. As we mentioned from Jiva Goswami, he never forgets even the smallest drop of service, let alone if someone is dedicated to pleasing him. So therefore we should be devotees. We should be, or we should become, if we're not already, and try to dedicate ourselves to his service. Just like we mentioned Arjuna. Arjuna was a warrior, a soldier, and so he fought for Krishna. I don't suppose we've got too many warriors here. Dangati, no, okay. I didn't think so. I don't think you'd make a good warrior. You know what? I think you'd be good as a radio announcer. Suggestion. You can do that for Krishna. Spread Krishna consciousness through the radio waves. Anyway, this other little story I was going to tell you before I got diverted. Let me just quickly tell you, it's quite different. Lord Caitanya is speaking to a whole group of devotees about how important it is to develop devotion, to serve God in a loving way, in a mood of devotion, and not just in a mood of, okay, if I do something for him, what's he going to do for me? What's my payback going to be? And if there's not a payback which I like, then I'm not going to do it again. So Lord Caitanya was explaining these things to this group of devotees, how important it is to develop devotion, and how if one doesn't, then, one's life will can be turned upside down, or at least it will not be really fulfilled or fulfilling. So Lord Caitanya referred to another story. It's a story from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is describing the life of Krishna. That when first of all, Krishna was living in the village. in the village, Vrindavan, Gokula, near Mathura, sort of, I don't know how well you know India's geography, but 100 or so, 100 and something kilometers south of Delhi, by the Yamuna River. Krishna was living there. And at a certain point, he left the village and went to the city of Mathura, which was nearby. It was actually only maybe 20 kilometers, or anyway, not far. But he had not been there yet. So he went there with his friends. They were from a cow-herding community. So they went to the city, Mathura, and they're walking around, and they're kind of, on a certain level, they're like simple village boys, like 10 years old, 10 or 12 years old. They're moving around the city, and what should they see but a washerman, a dobiwala, a washerman, he had a big, like, sort of cane basket full of clean clothes. And not just any clothes, but like the best clothes. Really beautiful clothes, just washed just the same day. And they were actually the clothes of the king. And this washerman was the washerman of the king. And Krishna stopped the washerman. And Krishna said to the washerman, "Wouldn't you like to give us cowherd boys some of these nice clothes?" Yes? Yes? Well, thank you. You'd make a good washerman. But this washerman, he's the king's washerman with the king's clothes. He became all proud and arrogant and said, "Who do you think you are, boys? These are the king's clothes. If you want some clothes, why don't you go into the forest, get some big leaves and bark off the trees and make some clothes from that?" Like, how dare you ask for some of the king's clothes? So he got really unpleasant with Krishna, which is not a good idea. Now, Krishna is very nice, but if you get unpleasant with him, you must watch out, because he may get unpleasant with you. So Krishna gave him a slap, what we call in Chatsworth, because I'm a resident of Chatsworth for 35 years now. In Chatsworth, in Chats, Unit 5, we call it a what's happened. You heard of the what's happened? Did you ever get one? Anyway, Krishna gave him a what's happened whack. Because Krishna didn't like being treated abusively. And you know what happened when Krishna gave him a what's happened? The man's head fell off. Because when Krishna gives you a what's happened, that's a really serious what's happened. So that was the end of the washerman. So Lord Chaitanya is telling the story. And then Lord Chaitanya made a really amazing point. He said, actually, that washerman had performed great austerities, like self-denial, eating nothing, not hardly sleeping at all, and just, extremely renounced for hundreds of lifetimes, just so he could see God. And then there he saw God. Krishna was right in front of him. But because he had no devotion, because his heart was hard through just lots of self-denial and being really tough on himself, because he had no devotion, because his heart was hard, when he saw God, he offended him. And therefore he came to a sort of a sticky end. So it's the same point, but coming from a different direction, that we should, in our relationship with God, because each one of us has a relationship with him, we should all try to serve him and please him. How? That you can find out from the devotees. But generally, just like Dan Gati Prabhu here on my right, on your far left in the front, he's an extremely famous and influential radio announcer, right? Something. Yeah. No, he is. He is big time. But he does it a lot for Krishna. And Krishna appreciates. And Krishna reciprocates. So we should try to be devotees, try to become devotees and learn how we can serve Krishna and please him. And, you don't need to worry, you don't need to retire early as I did. But you'll find if you do like that, your life becomes simpler and easier and nicer. It's really something amazing, completely amazing. I worked for 3 or 4 years as a journalist. I was a journalist, a reporter, and then a sub-editor in Auckland, New Zealand, on daily newspapers. And, it was okay. But when I became a devotee, wow, it's like someone turned the lights on. It was just really... Message today, everyone. By the mercy of Lord Caitanya, we should try to become Krishna conscious, become devotees, and render some service like the young lady just standing up there. She's a famous photographer. Not so famous maybe, but she's a good photographer. Yeah. So you can do all sorts of things. Arjuna was a warrior. You can do all sorts of things for the pleasure of Krishna and keep your life going and be very, very happy and make spiritual progress and develop your relationship with the Lord. Hare Krishna. Oh, yes, okay. Like Rasaraj Prabhu, who's sitting next to Dan Gati. Rasaraj's got the blue shirt on, you see, and the matching blue mask. Yes. You're an accountant, right? Are you a chartered accountant? Not just a regular one. So he's an accountant. He's been a devotee for years, and I don't know, 30 years, is it? Or something. And he hasn't starved to death yet. His wife, Atma Priya, she's around somewhere. She makes sure. Oh, there she is, Haribol, one of our old Sankirtan book distribution specialists, my gosh. So yeah, you can be happy as a family. You can be very happy.